So there's a bit of a tsunami on the right of people saying the quiet part loud, just ripping the mask off. Because as time goes by, like, the evolution of our politics in this country is just a march towards extremism. And you certainly see this on the far right. So this Texas pastor, a guy by the name of Robert Jeffers, is actually a Trump pastor. He met Trump in the White House a number of times. He's advised Trump. I think he was part of that famous picture where all the weird hardcore evangelicals like had their hand on Trump and they were praying. This is something that was, the optics of that is so bad that previous presidents, even Republican ones, were like, oh, I don't know if I want to do all this, right? So anyway, this guy is now, again, saying the quiet part loud. He was asked a question about Christian nationalism, and listen to his answer.
We always put our love for God above everything, even allegiance to our country.
Okay. We're 4 seconds in. I already have to pause. 4 seconds. We always put God above everything, even our allegiance to our country. I mean, it's like you're finding a clever, cutesy, white Christian way of saying jihad, right? Like, do you put your God above your kids? What about your wife? What about your parents? You put God above country. So that means if the government correctly enforces, like, secular laws, do you go, no, I don't abide by that. I abide by God's laws. So I'm going to stone my neighbor to death for adultery. Like, is that... If I'm taking what you're saying literally, then yes, this is something that you're sympathetic to, right?
We always put our love for God above everything, even allegiance to our country. But that's not what they're really talking about. Listen carefully. They say they are opposed to people who say America was founded as a Christian nation, Americans who believe not only in the spirit.
We're opposed to that because it's not true. America was not founded as a Christian nation. Many of the founding fathers were deists. A lot of them were Christian, but many of them were deists. But they also set it up to not be a Christian nation, to be a secular nation. We have a separation of church and state. Thomas Jefferson, in one of his letters, said that exact phrase. That's where it comes from. So, yeah, we're against it because that's not what this nation is founded on. It's not supposed to be a Christian theocracy. Quite the opposite.
They're really talking about. Listen carefully. They say they are opposed to people who say America was founded as a Christian nation, Americans who believe not only in the spiritual heritage of our nation, but believe that we ought to use elections to help return our country to its Christian foundation. If that's Christian nationalism, count me in, because that's what...
Thanks for saying it. At least he's honest, right? At least he's upfront. So, yeah, we want to return our country to its Christian roots. Let me decode that for you. What he's saying is we should have laws on the books that codify my interpretation of my religion. So he wants to force his religion on everybody else through the laws in this country. That's what he's saying.
We have to do. And what's so hypocritical about this, Tim, is the left don't mind at all imposing their values on our country through the election process. They don't mind forcing their pro-abortion, pro-transgender, pro-open borders policy upon our nation, but they object when conservative Christians try to impose their values on society at large.
Okay, so let me break down why this is incredibly idiotic. What the left tries to quote-unquote impose on the country is freedom. The left is saying, we want people to be able to make up their own mind when it comes to social issues. So if you're an adult and you want to be trans, go ahead and be trans, right? You want to get an abortion, you're free to get an abortion. You're also free to not get an abortion if you don't want to get an abortion. If you're gay and you want to get married, get married. If not, don't. If you're not gay and you don't want to get married, don't get gay married, right? So the left trying to impose a system on the American people is imposing a system of freedom. You choose. There's no imposition here. It's actually the opposite of imposing. Whereas his perspective is, look, the left wants to impose their values on you, but we also want to impose our values on you. And it's like, yeah, but the difference is you actually are imposing on people. You are prescribing authoritarianism based on theocracy, based on your interpretation of your religion. So your perspective on abortion is do a nationwide ban. Well, that's not freedom. Then nobody can get an abortion under any circumstances whatsoever. His prescription on gay marriage is ban it. So take away people's freedom. I'm sure his prescription on trans issues is ban it. Even adults can't transition, right? This is what he's trying to say. This is his argument. This is his perspective. And he acts like, well, since the left wants to impose its values on the country, why is it okay when you guys do it, but not okay when we do it? Because the left imposing its values is imposing freedom in the social realm. That's what that is. The left wants live and let live on social issues. The right wants quite the opposite. The right wants you do what we tell you to do. That's why 157 Republicans just voted against gay marriage in the House. 195 just voted against a right to contraception. They just threw out Roe versus Wade. And by the way, the same logic that was used for gay marriage in Obergefell was used in Loving versus Virginia, which was the right to interracial marry. Because states wanted to say, we're banning interracial marriage in this state. You're not allowed to get interracially married. So down the line, on all the issues, the right-wing position, which was imposed on the country, was an anti-freedom authoritarian position. That's the problem. Whereas the left position was the opposite. It's the freedom position. Even look at like the civil rights movement. The right-wing perspective was, we believe in states' rights, and so if states want to segregate the schools, they're allowed to do it. Because we have the freedom in our state to segregate our schools if we so choose. And the federal government had to step in and say, no, you don't. You don't have the freedom to take away other people's freedom. You don't have that. What you're doing is you're making black people second-class citizens and codifying it into law in the state and defining that as freedom. No, freedom is giving everybody equal opportunity and, they can go to whatever school they want to go to, right? Look, again, at least he's honest. At least he's honest about it. Sign me up for Christian nationalism. And this is on top of Marjorie Taylor Greene recently said the same thing, loud and proud that she's a Christian nationalist. Lauren Boebert, same thing. There's been a number of far-right politicians who are taking the mask off, saying this is what I'm in favor of. And you know what? Thank you for the honesty. But what I will say is this. They should also be honest that they are authoritarians. They are not libertarians. When you think of the political spectrum, think of the quadrant system, right? So you have libertarian left, libertarian right, authoritarian left. And they are authoritarian right. That's where they are. Because they want to control you socially. They want to control you socially and also implement like right-wing economic policies. So they should just be honest about that fact. So I don't want to hear another word from these people ever about freedom and liberty. Because it is fundamentally contradictory to say, I believe in Christian nationalism, but also I'm pro-freedom. No, Christian nationalism, by definition, is anti-freedom. Secularism is pro-freedom. You could be whatever religion you want to be or no religion at all. That's secularism. And that's correct. Secularism is the government is aggressively neutral on issues of religion. And that's correct. This guy wants to force his Christianity on everybody else through the law. So he wants to take divisive social issues. He has his opinion and impose it on everybody else. That's what he wants to do. And again, this is a guy who is a Trump pastor. He runs in conservative Republican circles, and he advises a lot of these ghouls. This is what they believe, and everybody needs to know that. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.